How's it going? And welcome to my office. An office of which I had the opportunity to tidy and make a little bit more set ready, I suppose. But then I realised that this is a working office, and that cleanly lit background thing you see in a lot of YouTube videos, not really doing that. It's a working office. So, you know, stuff lying around the place. It's not completely finished yet either. I've still got blank walls. I'm working on it though. Anyway, I haven't done a video for this week, and well, I didn't upload one on my Monday as I normally do because, well, I kind of get caught up in a lot of other things and didn't really have the time to do it. And I thought I would do one now for a couple of reasons. One, I had done a video, so I thought I would make one. Second of all, it is Drone Awareness Week. I don't know if it's in the world or in the UK or in general, I'm not really too sure, but as far as the interweb is concerned, it is Drone Awareness Week. So I thought I would tie that in with the fact that today in the UK, it's the opening of drone registration, where you have to, regardless of your commercial or hobbyist activities, you have to register your drone, your vehicle, your SUAV or UAV. You have to register it by the 30th of November, otherwise if you're flying it without being registered, you can face a fine up to £1,000. The new Mavic Mini has come out. Everybody's been losing their mind over it because it's sub 250 grams, and they think that don't have to register the drone. Well, I'm afraid come summer of 2020, all drones will have to be registered regardless of its weight. I'm very much pro sense and sensibility as far as this kind of tech's concerned, and that's the only chat you're going to get from me. So on the back of all of that, being Drone Awareness Week, and we as responsible flyers, especially myself as a commercial operator, I thought I would maybe share 15 tips with you as a responsible drone pilot. Things that you can do that will make sure that you're safe and that your vehicle is safe and returns back to you in the condition that it left. Tip number one is a favourite of mine. There might be a lot of people out there who don't do this. I know you fall into two camps, you're either one or the other, and it's what I refer to as RTFM. Read the fucking manual. Many people take the manual out of the box and launch it because, well, they care not for such things. They're bound by no man or woman, and will, go run and gun, free flow, and just do whatever they want. Others will take the time to unpack their box and have a little look, see what's inside, and RTFM before they do anything. Now, I'm one of those people. I like to know where the manufacturer is, if there's any warranty, how to switch it on, even though it might seem pretty obvious how things switch on, but it's just a good idea just to read the manual and familiarise yourself with this new piece of kit. If you're new to the drone world, that's probably a good idea. If you're currently already with a drone, it might well be the same as the one that you've already had, but you know what? It'd be worth just having a wee look just in case. So, tip number one, read the manual. Tip number two, avoid obstacles. Now, I'm aware that sounds like a ludicrously simple thing to do, and you'd be like, Mikey, seriously, I'm flying my drone, why would I fly into something? And it's a good question. Why would you fly into something? Because, well, you shouldn't. What I mean by that is that light and speed conditions can affect the sensors on your drone, especially if you're operating obstacle avoidance. Now, larger objects, say like a house or a castle maybe, or a heavily wooded area, the drone should not hit that if your obstacle avoidance is on. However, smaller things and probably more visually thin things like, power lines or telephone lines maybe, or washing lines, very thin, and the further the drone gets away from you, the smaller that will look to you, and it's quite hard for the drone to see it if you can't see it as well. I mean, they're clever, they're just not that clever. Be mindful of your environment and everything around you, and that would help you to avoid obstacles such as that. Tip number 3. avoid animals. Seems only fair. We're at that time of year. This is being recorded on the 5th of November, but it is fireworks night, and you know how dogs get, cats get when all these rockets and things start going off. Well, I'm afraid drones they pretty much cause the same sort of buzz. You know what the noise is, and animals get really annoyed about it. And you can go up those animals. I mean, I probably wouldn't fly over a zoo. And horses, that's another one. Horses, especially horses with riders on them. I mean, that's much the same as driving past them too fast, perhaps in your car, or cycling past them and not giving them a wide berth. It can scare them, it can cause them to bolt, and then things can go massively wrong. Same with all other sort of farmyard livestock, cows and sheep and pigs, and they all might seem a little bit, dense to the look sometimes, but you just don't know. And if something was to go wrong where your drone spooked any animal in somebody's farm and they legged it and they went on a road, or they caused an accident or whatever, you can pretty much see the blank canvas there unfold in front of your eyes. So just don't fly near them. It's just a sensible thing to do. I can't really stress that enough. What I'm saying is just sense. If it doesn't make sense to you, then well, there's no hope for you, but I certainly wouldn't fly a drone then. Tip number 4. Similar to animals, I would include people in that if you're going to practice, and I probably mean this from a practical sense, if you're new to drone flying and you're not familiar with up, down, left and right, then I probably wouldn't use people as your obstacle course. Much like animals, people get scared of drones as well. There's a lot of fables out there of, people saying drones are looking in their bathroom window, and that drones are, have just come out of nowhere and hit people and all that kind of stuff. And while I'm not saying that it hasn't happened, I'm saying that people over-dramatise things sometimes. So to avoid all that, I would practice your craft in a field that doesn't have any animals or people in it. Now, there's one thing, flying it near anybody, I guess, but you hit a person in the face with a drone, well, if they got right back up again, I think they'll come after you. I would. Somebody hit me with a drone, provided that it didn't take me out immediately. When I get to my feet, oh yeah, it's going down. So, joking aside, don't fly your drone near people. The Air Navigation Order states that about flying near crowded places anyway. So it'd be a good idea to learn the rules. The drone code is there for everybody's safety, and just a handy set of guidelines to know. But it doesn't take a genius to know that flying near people, around people, or on top of people is a good idea, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Tip number 5, calibration and pre-flight checks. Much the same as any vehicle, it has a lot of working parts, much like your vehicle. You check your oil, you check your water, make sure your washer fluid's all full. The drone is much the same. Check your rotors, make sure they're on there, you've put them on the wrong side, the right side, make sure they're on the right side, because 2 spin anti-clockwise and 2 spin clockwise, if they're not on the right way, you're going to get odd lift and it's going to flip over and just crash. Check your battery, make sure it's full. Seems quite obvious, but you'd be surprised. And then your calibration, GPS. Your GPS needs to be working and pretty bang on, that when your drone leaves from wherever you take off, that it knows where it can go back to should you need to return to home automatically under its own power. As somebody who's operated in the west coast of Scotland at various heights and mountainous regions, I know that the ground can actually affect it. There's a certain mountain in Scotland, there's a few mountains in Scotland, Ben Schoolish is one I can think of, that has a really metally based centre. I don't know if it's iron or whatever, it's certainly prehistoric of some description, but it affects the telemetry of the GPS of the drone like nothing else. And in fact, I've walked up that hill where a compass is just spinning around. So if a drone can't manage, if a compass can't manage it, a drone's going to cause you bother. So it's always good to recalibrate your drone if you've moved to somewhere new, because the geology of wherever you are invariably changes, especially if you're in a built-up area, because a lot of that stuff's been removed. But if you start getting into the wilderness, you don't know what's out there. So it's always good to calibrate your drone. Tip number 6. would be to make sure you set your return to home altitude properly. Now, like many things, you really have to prepare for anything, you know. I'm a big fan of the 7 Ps, which is proper planning and preparation prevents a piss poor performance. I know it takes a little bit of a mouthful to say it, but if you write it out, you look at it and you think about it, it actually makes quite a lot of sense. But your return to home altitude is quite important because if for any reason you lost contact with the drone between your controller and the aircraft, it will return to home. But it will return to home at a certain altitude. Now, it might, if you're flying at a low level and you've been flying quite close or whatever, that's fine. But if you fly further away and you lose signal with the drone and it goes into an ascent mode to its return to home, say you've been flying at 30 meters and then it goes to 70 to fly back to you, are you aware of what's in that airspace, of that difference of height? Because if that was to travel back and hit something at that height because you weren't flying at that height initially, then you're going to cause problems for yourself. So it would be a good idea to have a look around you to see what the highest thing is and then set your return to home to above that. Should the worst happen, then the drone can return to you safely over that cluster of trees that maybe you're not flying near or whatever, because, well, trees and most things in nature is very unforgiving when you fly into them. Tip number 7, we'll go with GPS and make sure that's set correctly. Well, not that it's set correctly, more that you have enough satellite signals being received on your controller, because if you don't, and for any reason one of those satellites drops out, well, you know, it's going into manual mode immediately. More satellites you have shown on your controller, the better, because if for whatever reason, if a satellite signal disappears, there's backups for that to happen. I personally wouldn't like to fly with any less than 6 shown, because you're just kind of covering all your bases. But if I'm flying in a commercial mode, because I very rarely fly in a hobbyist style now, I very rarely take my drone out and go, oh, I'm going to go for a wee fly. It's mainly commercial I'm doing. So for me, I need as many fail-safes as I can get, otherwise I'm going to lose my drone. And commercially that's not great, because you're a professional, you're supposed to know what you're doing. So GPS, the more the merrier, I would say. The less you take your gamble there. And if you start flying away and you lose signal, or this GPS drops out and you have to take manual control of the drone, but you're not aware of it, you know, it might maintain its altitude from where it is, but with wind drift and all the rest of it, it could move, you'll not see it, and before you know it, you know, it's hit something and then you've lost it, and that's it. So just a good tip to make sure you know you've got enough GPS signal before you take off. Tip number 8, it's a simple one, and the drone kind of does it anyway, you just need to further it a little bit more, is hover in flight prior to flying away. Now, most drones, when you go into takeoff mode, it goes up a couple of meters and sits in a hover. You should take that opportunity to make sure that all the functions on the drone work before you send it off somewhere. You know, bank left, bank right, forward, backwards, up, down, yaw, right and left. You know, make sure the drone's all moving. Rotate the camera, do all that kind of stuff, and just make sure it's all working and that it's sitting stable in front of you, so you can, you know, I mean, if it's hanging to the left, hanging to the right, if there's something wrong, it's better to be something wrong at 2 meters and fall down or switch off or have an issue than to be, you know, 200 meters away from you at 70 meters and then it drops out the sky. So but in most commercial situations, you go through a checklist, and one of them is to make sure that all the functions in the drone work. They should be working. You should have done your checks prior to you even switching the thing on. But when you do switch it on, you need to go through these processes and check it. And it's just being mindful about your kit. Granted, the more you do it, the more it becomes like muscle memory. You just do it without thinking. You know, a quick check, because the last thing you want to do is go straight into a hover and just bolt forward at full pace, and then something gives in there, and then, well, you're already at 20-25 miles an hour, and the thing just drops like a stone straight into a field. You know, it has happened. So, not to me, but just need to type into YouTube, you know, drone fails. They're all there, and you can see what exactly that person could have done to avoid it. So, yeah, just pre-flight hover check, we'll call that one. Number 9, Now this is more for people that don't use drones. Maybe you're just buying your first drone, or you're going to venture out into getting your first drone and you're not sure what you're doing. Most of them have a beginner mode. Hides all the advanced buttons, you know. It's like automatic setting on your DSLR or mirrorless camera. It does everything for you. So all you really need to concentrate on is the flight, the forwards, up, down, backwards, left and right. And I know it's some people feel as if, you know, you've been, I don't know, that you've been, something's been taken away from you, some sort of rights or educational abilities been stripped away from you because you've been put your water wings on and you just can't handle it because, you know, you're an adult, you know things. But to be honest, you might well be an adult. That doesn't necessarily make you able, shall we say. So beginner mode just, you know, slows the drone down and takes away all the want to do something stupid. Get used to the feel of it, because it's a very alien feeling when you first fly a drone. And I've been there, and it's terrifying in a lot of ways when you get a drone for the first time and you start flying it, because you just don't know. It feels very weird. So if you've got that whole slowed down, and then I come actually from a more analog drone, didn't really have all that beginner mode, and I kind of had to just go with the flow. But certainly, if it was available to me, I would have certainly have taken it, and I would suggest anybody new to it would do the same. Tip number 10. Know how your return to home works. Now, I know I spoke about the return to home altitude, but if you don't know what the return to home function is, the altitude is going to mean nothing to you at all. But the return to home function is it's just something there to aid you should there be a disconnect between your signal, between the controller and your drone, for whatever reason. The drone knows then that when it loses signal with its base controller, that it should return to the place that it took off. Generally speaking, that's how that one should work. Whatever you've taken off from should be a nice, secure, clear, free from obstacle place, flat that you can take off from. And if the drone returns to it, you know if you weren't there that the drone would land quite safely till you got there, and that would be that. But with that, a return to home is only going to work if it has decent GPS. So if there's no satellites in the sky, it can't log where it took off from. So if it doesn't have that logged and you fly away and there is an issue, it can't return to home because, well, it doesn't know its coordinates from where it took off from. So prior tips, learning your return to home altitude. GPS, making sure there's plenty of signal. Also another good one. And your compass, because if the compass doesn't work and you haven't calibrated it properly, the GPS isn't on, all these things tie in, and it becomes very, very obvious that you haven't done your checks properly when you hit the return to home button, because the drone's flying away out over open water and it ain't coming back. Tip number 11. Check the weather conditions. It seems like a fairly obvious one, but as a Scotsman, we have quite unfavourable weather sometimes, and it can actually make or break a shoot. Certainly there are bad weather conditions you could probably fly in, light rain, but it's not really worth it, in fairness, because you've got a piece of electric flying around in the sky, getting any water inside those rotors, and that'll be goodbye to your drone. And in fairness, if you've got a camera as well, you get a spot of rain on the lens, it ruins your shot. It's horrendous, and you have to land, wipe it, start again. What's the point? Wind's much the same, because drones only can go so fast and so far, and can only power through a certain amount without depleting battery status, or indeed getting lost with the winding if you're going in the opposite direction. So my rule of thumb is I take the speed of the drone at its max, divide it by 3, and that normally would give you a wind speed I wouldn't fly above. So if you take the Phantom 4 Pro, for example, which can fly at a max speed of 45 miles an hour, divide that by 3, what's that, roughly about 15? Yeah, 15. So I wouldn't fly anything above 15 miles an hour. But also temperature's another thing there, because if it's too cold, your batteries are going to suffer a result. I know you can buy Inspire 2s and such like that have battery warmers and get them up to a certain temperature pre-flight, but certainly temperature plays a massive side of that, and weather's just massive in Scotland on the basis that we get a lot of it, and it varies a lot throughout the year. in fairness, sometimes it happens in the same day. So it does make flying in Scotland, in fairness, right across the UK, a little bit interesting in terms of the weather. So yeah, weather's just something you should be aware of, and just be sensible about it. It's generally the theme with all of these tips, I would say. Tip number 12 would be to keep an eye on your battery status. There's a reason why there's a status on your visual display, and battery is quite important, for it powers your craft, and without said power, it's useless because you won't be able to fly it. Keeping an eye on that indicator whilst you're in flight is pretty good. Now, you have fail-safes in place in terms of notifications. When your battery drops down to a certain level, the drone will automatically go into return to home mode. You can obviously cancel that out, and then you can manually land it yourself. But it's good to know that there's an option there to let you know that when you get down to say 20% battery, that's probably a good indication to change it out for a fresher one. You wouldn't want to be in a situation where your drone's further away from your position that the power can dictate for it to fly, because as soon as it gets to its last minute, it will go into descend mode. It will land. It won't just switch off in the sky and fall out. It will physically calculate its distance from you with the power that it has left, and if it can't make it to you, it'll land wherever it can, basically. And if that's over a body of water, well. Tip number 13 is maybe not an obvious one, or maybe it is an obvious one, I don't know, but don't fly aggressively. It seems like an odd one to say, I guess, because, I mean, who does? I dare say within a racing capacity, people that do FPV racing and all that kind of thing, a bit of aggression to get past your competitors is probably, probably an asset. However, these tips are for hobbyist drone pilots in a non-FPV manner, because I'm not a first-person view racer. I don't fly those types of drones. I care not for those types of drones. Sometimes I watch the footage, it's quite cool, not interested though. So the aggression style moves, the aggressive moves and that kind of flight, they don't really work in my line of work. Going at speed isn't the issue, but the aggressive turn would be, and it does all sorts of things to the drone, because it's applying its rotor speed on different sides to slow down and turn, and you've got wind resistance and a whole lot, and you put the craft under a kind of lot of pressure when you do it. But also when you're at speed and you're trying to come at a dead halt, or you're trying to move, it does increase your chances of flying into something if you don't know what you're doing. It's probably better that if you just plan out your shot of what you're going to do and just move in a nice fluid movement, allow the craft to turn in plenty of time, and especially from a filmography or cinematography or videography or photography point of view, there's no point doing sharp turns because the footage won't look good. Don't be aggressive with your movements, is what I'm saying, and the off chance that you might aggressively move left or right a bit too quickly and then fly into something. That's what I'm trying to get you to avoid from doing. Tip number 14 is fly within line of sight. Now, I know there's got a camera on it, and I know if you look at your screen you can see where it's going, but nothing can really take away from real eye vision. Flying within line of sight is more about a safety thing more than anything else. You want to be able to see the drone. You want to see what it is on the horizon. You want to see what it is in the location to you. Now, obviously, within the drone code, you really don't want to be flying any more than 500 meters away from you, depending on the visibility, because if weather plays a factor in that, that would significantly decrease. But just having that visual line of sight, it just makes things easier if there is an issue, because you want to have an eyeball on it. At least if it dropped out of the sky, you could go and immediately to where it was. I feel as if there's an element of common sense and ownership. It's your drone, and there are rules there that you should really just adhere to, really, and just to be a safer, more responsible flyer. Fly with visual line of sight. It's safer for you, it's safer for the drone, and it's safer for everybody else. Tip number 15 is my last tip, and it is a simple tip, and it is basically obtain insurance. You insure most things in life: house insurance, car insurance, travel insurance. There's insurances all there, and they're there to help you out, and they're there to help other people out. If you should have an incident with your drone, it could be a simple incident where it falls out your car, or or you drop it, or you stand on it by accident, okay, you can get your drone replaced. That's all about the tech side of it. That's about the actual physical drone side of it. If you're out flying your drone and there's an incident where it falls out the sky and lands on somebody else's property or on a vehicle or a person, then liability insurance is a bit of a must there, because if it's proved to be a reckless endangerment, or for whatever reason, the law can come down pretty hard on these things, and to have insurances there would allow that process to be a lot cleaner. But again, insurance is only as good as its pilot, really, because if you break any of the drone code facts or CAA regulations, then the insurance won't pay out. If you have not been flying within visual line of sight, or if you have been flying too close to a vehicle, vessel or structure, or you've been doing the opposite of what you're supposed to, the telemetry on board will tell the insurance companies that you weren't playing by the rules, and they're quite within their rights just to say, no, we won't pay out because you didn't follow these simple rules, and that's it. So there is a for and against it. You don't have to get insurance. It's not a legal requirement to have your drone insured. It's just good sense to have it insured, especially from the kit perspective. If you use it a lot and you do happen to ditch it in the sea, or there's a problem, it's crashed through no fault of your own, and it's all within the regulations, then you can make a claim, you get a new drone, and boom, everything's fine. Now, I'm going to go with a bonus tip here. I'm only going with this bonus tip now because of drone registration. And drone registration has become live as of today, November the 5th. The site is live now anyway, I think it was yesterday, but certainly if you have a drone, you're planning to get a drone, you should register it, because then it makes it as a unique flyer number for you, it's an operator ID. If you don't have a PFCO, a permission for commercial operations, you will have to sit an online test, which is, it's free to do, and you can do as many times as you want. Study it, understand it, obtain it, take a bit of pride in it, and get that operator number for your drone. And that way, if you do happen to have a flyaway drone and it lands, somebody finds it, they can check that number against the system and get it returned to you. It's a system that's been put in place between the government and the Civil Aviation Authority. They're asking you to do it. It's only £9 a year. It's not the end of the world. I'm not entirely sure if I don't think it's a Big Brother move, but it just makes sense. Other vehicles that you own in life, other things are needing to be registered. What's wrong with having this? I hope you enjoyed this video. This is a different type of video for me because I'm office bound. I'm not out and about doing what I usually do. But I hope you enjoyed the video nonetheless. I hope you got something from it, and that I'm maybe looking to doing more of this as we head into the winter. Please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help. And if you've watched this far, then thank you very much, because you are helping the algorithm go on its merry way. Thank you again, and I will see you on the next video.